So hear me out. There are a lot of great men out there. I know some of y'all laughed, and I'm holding back my laughter, but my laughter is only because I'm laughing at you, laughing at me. but I believe my statement. I truly do. It's a genuine statement. There are a lot of great men out there. Now, I know it may not seem like that because a lot of y'all have seen nothing but bad examples, hearing a lot of horror stories that has skewed your judgment and perception. And it feels like it's hard out here in these dating streets. I get it. But trust me, again, there are great men. And I want you to be mindful of the qualities that these great men have, all right? Now, let me just say real quick before I get into these qualities. Nobody's perfect, all right? We're all human. We are all flawed. Every last one of us. Yeah, you too, okay? And so understand that the goal is not perfection, but the goal is someone who's well-rounded, who is balanced, who is in alignment with you, who has a connection with you. I'm going to always push finding that person you have a genuine and deep connection with, because with that foundation, everything else can work out. All right. But I do think there's some overall qualities to be mindful of. And I'll say this, if the guy doesn't already fully possess it, he will have a willingness to develop it for the sake of being with you and having a healthy relationship with you. So one of the first qualities that if a man has, don't let him go. And real quick, I know I put the word never in the title, right? Don't judge me. I know it's being a little exaggerated. I'll never say never. So there's going to be some situations, even if he has these qualities, that you might have to let him go. But chances are, if he has these qualities and there's a genuine connection there, I pray that you two never have to let each other go, okay? Now, let's continue. The first quality is emotional availability. So, as a woman, you know there's a lot of men out there who are just not emotionally available. Now, let me say, a lot of that emotional unavailability is not because a man is not capable, but it's going to be dependent a lot of times on his seriousness with this woman. Meaning, if a man is just trying to have a casual relationship with a woman, because though he desires her for various reasons, he doesn't see a future with her. With that woman, he's not going to be emotionally available, because the goal is not to let this move into an emotional place and a place of depth. It's to keep it on the surface. It's to have fun. It's just to be casual. And so what happens is, because a lot of women meet those kind of men, you start to believe that these men are incapable of being emotionally available. No, it's just that one piece of the puzzle is it has to be two people who are serious about each other and see a potential future with each other. However, there are examples of men who, whether they're serious or not, struggle with emotional vulnerability or emotional availability, because that requires vulnerability. And they have things they haven't healed from that block that willingness to be vulnerable, or they have not learned how to be emotionally available in a healthy way. And so this is an example of where, again, if he has a seriousness and a genuine desire to be with you, but he struggles in that area, by you addressing it in a loving and calm manner, I stress the word calm, okay, with this man, he will be willing to work towards that. And if he's not, for whatever reason, even if he does genuinely care about you, it's just not time for a relationship. You know, some guys may love you, but they're just not emotionally ready or emotionally healthy enough to move forward in a relationship with. But back to the fact that the availability is a quality of a very good man, or more so a healthy man. All right. And let me say this. There's going to be some, I know this might sound confusing, but just follow me here. There's going to be some scenarios where a man can be emotionally available. He could be a good man. Doesn't mean he's the right man for you. And that's why we don't want to use just the word never, because listen, I want you to understand it takes more than just that to say, okay, I need to hold on to this. I need to try to make this work with this man. it has to be the right fit. It has to be the man you're in alignment with, have a connection with. Otherwise, it will at some point fall apart. It's inevitable. So let's get to number 2, or let's get to the second quality that if a man has, he's a good man, is he holds himself accountable, or he embraces accountability. Now, the willingness to hold yourself accountable, I think, is an issue a lot of people are struggling with right now. And I think, we have this issue with accepting when we're wrong or accepting when we fell short. And I think it's because there's this fear of just saying, okay, I need to be better. It's almost like we internalize it to now feel like we're less worthy of something or we're not good enough. And it doesn't mean that. It just means you're a human being. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be things you need to do better. Everyone needs to embrace the ability to see, where can I improve? And men who have developed to a certain extent, men who are well-intentioned, right, are men who are more willing to take accountability, because the users, the manipulators, the men who are looking to wreak havoc in your life for their own selfish reasons, well, they're not trying to be accountable. They're going to be the ones who turn the tables on you. When you bring up something about them, they're going to flip it back on you. Who's going to dodge conversations, who's going to make nothing but excuses, but never correction, and this is the sign of a man who you don't need to be dealing with. And unfortunately, I see a lot of women who come across this behavior, and because you think this is typical male behavior, you, in essence, dismiss it rather than address it to the point where if it can't be corrected, walk away. You essentially accept it, and by accepting it, and when I say accept it, you remain dealing with this man, you've essentially enabled his unwillingness to take accountability. And this is why I push so hard to let you know that no, better does exist. Men who hold themselves accountable do exist, because if you don't think those guys exist, you'll keep accepting the ones who don't. But by knowing that there is a better level to experience with a man, then it will empower you to say, this is unacceptable. I don't need to continue to deal with this. When you are willing to step up and be the man you need to be, maybe we can talk about this. Until then, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. So pay attention to the accountability. But I also want to stress this before we move on to another point. It's not just, is he accountable with you? Though, of course, that is extremely important. But is he accountable in life in general? All right? Because men who tend to not be accountable in other aspects of their life, well, that's going to pour over into the relationship. On the flip side, men who hold themselves accountable in life in general will more likely hold themselves accountable in this relationship. So because sometimes you're going to be dating a guy and there may not be a situation that arises that allows you to see if he's that taking accountability type of guy or not, right? As far as you two are involved. But there will probably be something else in his life that happens that you guys will be talking about where you'll get to see how he handles that. Pay attention to those moments, because that's going to give you a preview of what you'll have to deal with when it's an issue that arises between the two of you. All right. So now the next thing on the list of qualities if a man has, don't let him go, is he is a respectful man. So I feel the need to say this. It's already kind of hitting I don't know if it's hitting my spirit or it's just my brain right now. So when I say he's going to be respectful, let me just foundationally, yes, that's just an accurate thing. A good man is a respectful man, plain and simple. I do think that we live in a world where sometimes respect is misunderstood or misconstrued. All right. Meaning what some people may deem as disrespectful, right? It wasn't done with disrespect. It wasn't done with that intention from that person, from that man. And again, this is what brings me back to continuously reminding you guys of this is why we address red flags rather than just run when we see them, because so many things are misunderstandings. I'm trying to think of a good example right now. I can't think of one, but let's just say, for example, he calls you and doesn't use your name, your first name, right? He just says, hey, blah, 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 doesn't use your name. This may not be the best example, but some people may view him not using the name as, where's the respect? You should call me by my name, right? And he meant nothing bad by it. And so this doesn't make him not a good man. This doesn't make him not a man who is serious about you. It may be that where he's from, we don't use first names like that. Okay? So it's little things like that that sometimes we have to understand that things that are viewed as respectful behaviors sometimes are based out of how we were raised, what we are conditioned to. All right? And what we were taught was acceptable, but we don't know what you were taught was acceptable. And sometimes those two worlds collide, okay? And when someone initially does something that we perceive or receive as disrespectful, I think it's important to make sure that we check ourselves first in the sense of not internalizing it, not just reacting to it, not just jumping to this is disrespect. Now, I do think we can make an argument for certain things as blatant disrespect, but we don't have time today to go through those things at the moment. I think just a good rule of thumb is talk about it first. Don't assume the negative. Don't jump to negative, because I've seen this happen so many times. All right. So discuss it. But ultimately, yes, that good man will be a respectful man. And here's the thing. That is the sign of real respect, is when you explain to me that this is a problem for you. And because I am serious about you and I care about you, I now embrace the need to make that correction. All right. When I dismiss you and I show an unwillingness to correct the behavior that has a negative impact on you, that to me is more of a disrespect than anything, not the initial action, because he just may not have known better. All right. So be mindful of that, but always talk about it first. Next on the list of traits of he's a good man is he is commitment minded. Okay. Now, let me be clear. There's a lot of good men that you will meet that will not want a commitment with you. Their lack of desire for commitment with you, and that's not to shame you, make you feel bad or anything like that. Because listen, there's going to be a lot of good men that meet you and you're a good woman, but you may not want a commitment with them. You may not want them in that way. That does not make them a bad man. Now, I understand some of y'all may feel like, well, if he tries to engage with me and date me casually when he doesn't want something serious, that does make him bad. No, I don't agree. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be out there trying to just do casual stuff. What I'm saying is this. What makes him bad is if he is deceptive about it. What makes him bad if he is leading you on. What makes him bad is if he mistreats you, disrespects you, so on and so forth. But if he is being honest and transparent, even in moments of not desiring commitment, that I can't then say he's a bad man, because he is giving you an opportunity to make a choice. And this is where you have to be honest with yourself about what's going on here. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but Stephan, some of these men be saying one thing and acting different. Okay. Like I mentioned in one of the chapters in my book, He's Lying, Sis, is he acts like your boyfriend, but he doesn't want a girlfriend. I get it. But again, it's hard for me to call an honest man a bad man. Okay. Because he's being honest and transparent. I know it can be confusing if he acts different, but again, the how he behaves with you, here's what's crazy about this thing. I know a lot of men who may want to date a woman casually, right? And will still be respectful to her, nice to her, may even provide for her, do all these things. And to the woman, it's, you're throwing me mixed signals. you're a bad person. To the guy, it's, I'm trying to make sure I give you nothing but good, positive, pleasant experiences. I'm just trying to make sure I'm a stand-up guy. I'm not doing this to confuse you. I'm doing this just to provide a positive environment. Okay? Now, to some of y'all, that sounds like nonsense. but that's a genuine thing. Like, I've heard a lot of guys say, man, it works against them to be a good guy when they're trying to be casual, because their goodness is then misconstrued as him throwing mixed signals and him wanting more than what he's saying he wants. Whereas the guy who treats the woman bad and is being casual is like, oh, okay, well, I knew he was this guy, so I don't hold this against him. And it's like, well, dang. So what do you want? The mistreatment and casual, or someone's going to treat you well even when they're being casual? Now, again, if you don't want casual, don't do casual at all. This is not me saying to do casual. This is just me breaking down this dynamic and helping you understand that the lack of willingness to commit is not what makes somebody bad. All right? Because I think I've seen too many times where these scenarios happen, and when things don't work out, the woman leaves with this very bad taste in her mouth of, these men are no good. And it's like, no, don't do that, because you're creating this negative perception of men based off a situation that doesn't deserve that label. If he was real with you, respect that he was real with you. You know what I'm saying? He didn't lead you on. You have to make a choice. And when a man says, I don't want a relationship, do not try to convince yourself otherwise. If there's one thing that men are pretty honest about when they're saying it, that you don't need to look any deeper into, is, I don't want anything serious. I don't want a relationship. I'm not saying it's never been a misrepresented statement for somebody, but I'll say probably, if I had to guess, 99.9% of the time, if a man says that, he is dead on serious, regardless of anything else he does for you. Because a man who wants to be with you is not going to tell you, I don't want a relationship, I don't want anything serious, and risk losing you. That's not what he's going to do. So if he says that, that's what he means. Okay? But getting back to the original point, a willingness to commit is more so like, I don't want to make that about good or bad. I want to make that about, this is the type of man, if you want a committed relationship, that's the kind of man you should be entertaining. And you have to be mindful when you're entertaining men who are not commitment minded. I've seen very many situations where not only does the man say he doesn't want a relationship, I've seen women date men who are saying, I don't believe in marriage, or I don't want marriage, while still hoping that maybe he'll eventually change his mind. And it's like, don't do that to yourself. Stop that. If that's not what you want, don't entertain that. Let that go, because there are plenty of men out there who from the very jump are going to tell you, no, that is what I'm working towards. That's what I want. Be available for those guys rather than get tied up in a guy who's not on the same page as you. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So I think we can all agree, or I think we're all aware, that men are very visual, right? And a lot of men want to feel physically attracted to their partner.